Welcome to the MindDuck Book Podcast. Joining me is Paolo. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Martin.
Hello.
I am so happy that you agreed to do this. This is my favorite spin-off podcast that started from the MindDuck Japan podcast, where I'm the host and we talk about all things Japan, about traveling and culture and all things like that. But recently I decided to branch out and do things about other topics. And my favorite thing to talk about is books. That's great. That's fine.
That's a great sound effect. Right
Yeah,
now.
thank you. It works. So on this episode, we'd like to do it different than the MindDuck Japan podcast. It's going to be very simple. We're going to do two parts. And the first is going to be some factual information, our opinions about the book. And then the second part is going to be all full-on spoilers. And to start with, because this is the first episode, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the people here. So I guess let me start with myself.
Yes. You're the host,
yeah.
so it's only fair.
So my name is Filip. I'm from the Czech Republic, and I don't enjoy Czech literature at all, and I never read poetry.
Okay.
The only poetry I ever liked was a random book I read by William Blake, and I don't know why, but doesn't matter. And then I always read everything by Orson Scott Card, who wrote The Ender's Game. Recently I loved the Dune books from Frank Herbert, and usually sci-fi. That's my deal. So how about you guys?
All right. So I'm Paolo. I'm from Italy. I don't know anything about Czech literature other than Kafka, I guess, but
Yeah, him.
yeah. Oh, really? Okay. But I do like. I've never read anything from Kafka, but I do like Italian literature. Actually, my favorite writer is Italian. His name is Italo Calvino. I don't know if any of you
Haven't heard
know.
of it.
Yeah, he's not so famous outside of Italy.
What kind of thing does he write about?
He had a long career and he changed styles several times. He started writing after the Second World War.
Oh, okay. So it's more like a real true story.
At the beginning, yes. After that, he started writing kind of like fables for adults, which sounds very
Oh, okay.
That
sounds like the
interesting,
porn
actually.
parody of
No, that's
of
something I
Black
would
Snow
be into,
White.
actually.
It's super interesting. He wrote some of my favorite books. But some of his books are like super strange. Like my favorite book probably is called The Invisible Cities, which is this book where like there is Marco Polo talking to the Great Khan about the city he has traveled to. But they are like fake cities, of course. They're not real cities. And between each city, there is like this intermission where they speak, and it's very dreamy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very strange book. It's very hard to explain, but it's super cool. Other than that, like Philip, I really dislike poetry. I don't understand the point of poetry.
This is not the poetry podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe I'm just stupid, but it really bothers me. I like sci-fi. I like fantasy. I don't really have a genre. Like usually, when I ask for recommendations about books, what I ask is if it is depressing. And if it has like an interesting setting.
Wait,
Yeah.
Usually that's what I'm looking
depressing is a good thing
So you
Yeah.
want the depression.
for. Yes.
in your mind. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense after you gave me your recommendations, but we talk about it later.
I mean, like the one I told you about Celine, like
Yeah.
Journey to the End of the Night. That's probably, it's not the most depressing, but that's like a book if you want to hate humanity.
Oh,
You should hate
I
yourself.
see now that's our deal now. I see what the books you read now.
Yes.
Yeah, I see a pattern here.
Yeah.
That's why you like Dune as well, because it gets into that too.
Yeah. That's true. So,
and
yeah.
Paolo just started reading the Free Body Problem sci-fi series, which is like a Chinese sensation, which he called the depression books. He met and he said, "My depression book have arrived," and he has this like smirk on his face. And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
So that's Paolo's deal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So hi, I'm Martin, and I love poetry.
Oh, really?
No, actually no.
Okay.
But
I was scared.
How dare you?
If it was true, we were out. Out before the first episode started.
Okay, actually, I'm a person who really enjoys sci-fi and fantasy as well. And I'm not really into many books that are about drama that's based on reality or that could happen in reality. I like to kind of lose myself in the stories of the books and just forget about it's kind of my escape mechanism, the books.
Yeah, I see.
Which is why this book was tough nut to read, but but yeah, I enjoy like recently I enjoy a lot of fantasy. I like books from Patrick Rothfuss. I like books from Brandon Sanderson, who I like gouge on like furiously in the last like year and a half. There's just book after book from him because he's a really good author of fantasy and a bit of sci-fi. And I also enjoyed Dune. I'm not sure if I'm like as big fan like Philip and Paolo here, but I see a good points in it. I just read the first book and I enjoyed it. I'm not sure if I want to read the rest.
Oh, okay. I think the first one is the thing to read. If you give up after the first one, I think it's not that bad.
No, I think you should always read the second one. I think. Okay, we can discuss about this when we do the Dune podcast.
Dune's gonna be like 700 episodes after we get it. So I don't think that the first book, that you have to read all the Dune books. I think the first book is the most important.
Unsurprisingly.
Paolo disagrees.
No. I don't disagree. I just say I think like Dune books, like it makes sense if you split them into couples. Like if you read the first, you should read the second. If you read the third, you should read the fourth. If you read the fifth, you should read the sixth. That's just my opinion, because
they kind of go together. The second one directly like continues with the first one.
They have the same main characters. Like the second one has the same main characters as the first. The third has the same main character as the fourth, and the fifth has the same main characters as the sixth.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe I'll just grab that second one. And
Minor warning. No, second one, major depression book. Major depression. Major depression. You gotta do like a warning.
I'll leave that for another time then, because I've been depressed enough by this book.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hope that gives you an idea about what kind of people we are. So there is like escapist, depressionists, and I'm just egoist. I don't know what I am.
Okay, I don't know. I guess like all escapists in a way. Since,
yeah, of course.
Like we all like fantasy.
I'm the overthinker, as you know, if you listen to anything else that I've done.
Oh yeah.
And I love books for like ideas. So I like a good idea behind a book. That's what I'm looking for. So let's get into it. Let's start with some factual information. And the first part, like I said, we'll give you the general opinions and try to get you interested or discouraged. And then by the second part, you should be decided if you're going to be spoiled or if you want to hit pause and then come back after you have read the book. This book is pretty easy to read. It's only 200 pages. So if you're actually trying to go along with us, I recommend starting with this one. That's why we started with this one, because it's really easy to read. It's really short. There are like 5 chapters.
Yeah, I think like if you're a fast reader, you can probably read it in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think
like
so.
It took me like 3 weeks because I'm super slow. But
I read it like I read everything, which is very rarely and very short times, and it took me like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The name of the book is Confessions, and it's by Kanae Minato.
Original name is Kokuhaku.
Thank you.
Kokuhaku means confessions, but usually in Japanese, it's associated with love confessions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So usually it's the person declaring their love for someone else.
So it came out in 2008, translated into English in 2014, which is the thing we read. And the writer wrote this when she was 30 years old, was trying to find out if she was a teacher, didn't find it. I hope she wasn't a teacher.
I don't know.
And I was reading about her on Wikipedia and all over the place on the internet, and I found that in Japan people call her the Queen of Iamisu.
Yes.
What's Iamisu?
So Iamisu is the kind of books that you read to disgust yourself.
Yeah, I found that it's called You Mystery.
Yeah. So it in a way, it's kind of like gory for horror, but it's more like disgusting at a psychological level than at like visual level.
That's a very good point. I think this is like the psychological gore.
Yeah.
So she was really successful. She won the Honya Taisho, which is Japanese bestseller award in 2009, the next year, pretty quickly. She also won a bunch of other awards, and the film was very quickly adapted. The book was very quickly adapted into a movie in 2010. Immediately won Best Picture for the Japan Academy Prize, and then it won Best Foreign Language Film. So super high expectations.
So the movie is on Japanese Netflix, and I think also on international Netflix. There is one interesting point I just learned about the movie. I haven't watched it, but
me neither.
Not me either.
Yeah, the actress who plays the main character is the voice actress for Elsa in Frozen, which is pretty awkward.
That is weird.
Yeah. If you watch Frozen in Japanese now, it would sound very strange.
This is gonna ruin it.
Yeah. And no, because she does mostly comedical roles. So I was very surprised when I heard that she plays like this character.
I see.
Yeah.
So this writer is very highly regarded. I checked that she has written a lot of other books. She's still pretty young, so she's gonna write a lot more. Have you heard about any of this before you started reading?
I had expectations because again, I received this book as a present, and the person who gave me the book said it was their favorite book. So in that sense, I had expectations, but. Other than that, I like recently. I really like to go into books completely blind.
Yeah, that's my deal.
Knowing
that's the best with movies
nothing.
too.
That's the best way. Well, I've actually heard about the movie first from another podcast, and they've interested me enough so that I wanted to watch it. And then you came along and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast about books and let's read this book." Wait, that's the same book as the movie I wanted to. So I just kind of switched, and instead of watching the movie, I've decided to read the book, and here we are.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
I didn't really have many expectation other than that I've heard the movie is really good movie, and I kind of expected that the book will be as well, because if it's a good movie, it had to have a good origin, right? So I had expectations, but they were completely blown away. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Can we still...
In a good sense.
Okay, right. I was about to say, can we already talk about if it was in a good way or in a bad way?
We can talk about anything you want. Just try to not say what the ending was.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil things.
Right. We can talk this through later.
So just to keep things general, my expectations were non-existent and I wasn't amazed. I got really into it. It was super easy to read. And I got a little bit discouraged by the end, because I felt like I'm gonna get into it later. But I wanted to say, this is about a teacher and a school. Most stories about Japanese culture are in the school. I'm not surprised. And this had me worried and then convinced that if I ever have children, I don't want to have them in Japan. This is my message of this book.
Right. For me personally, I really like the book. I'm not a super expert on Japanese literature, but I have read other books. But the other books I've read were all classics of Japanese literature, like Dasai Osamu,
okay,
or Yukio Mishima, and so on, which fall into the depressing,
Yeah, that's
super
the books you told me
depressing
about,
books.
right? You gave me a
Yes.
list. Okay.
So this was the first modern Japanese book I've ever read. And it is much more in line with the other Japanese media I've consumed, like comic books and movies and games. So I was not completely blown away, but I really liked it. We can talk about the ending. We can talk about a few points which I feel like were not exceptional, but I really like the overall idea. I really like the structure and the way it was written. I think it's one of the interesting things that this book has, which I always like, is that it's written in a very peculiar style.
That's true.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's not super original. Other books are written the same way, but where it's each chapter is written with a different narration point. So the very first chapter is just basically the voice of the main character talking, uninterrupted. Some of the chapters are like diary entries. Some of the chapters are more like introspective. So I really like the different styles.
I like that idea. You could say that each chapter is the different point of view.
Yeah.
Different person.
Yeah, you could say it's like each chapter is a different confession, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
like-
exactly. Yeah, so the structure of the book, pretty good. The writing, pretty unusual, pretty interesting. The thing I didn't like the most was that it suffers from, like, why don't you talk to each other syndrome that I hate in movies and books. That's one of my biggest gripes with this book, that the characters, like, I overthink things, but these characters, they overthink so hard, and if they just said something to somebody else, it wouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah, I think that was like a little bit over the top in some of the parts as well. Like, some of the characters got so delusional that it already, like, it became a fantasy at that point. Because it felt like, I guess it can happen, but it's so like...
It can happen when you get mad, but not like, yeah.
But I guess
like,
that was kind of the point. Like, the idea was, it was starting from what the main character says at the beginning, which I guess we can say, like, it's not really a spoiler, which is, there is this law in Japan so that if you're younger than a certain age, no matter the crime you commit, you cannot be judged. Essentially, you will always be forgiven, essentially. And it starts from this idea, and then it takes it to the extreme, which is very interesting.
This is what I thought the book would be. I thought it would be pointing out problems with Japanese law and trying to see the problems in society and have like a on-the-nose message about like what the problem is. And it just touched on it in the beginning and that was never brought up again. So I was like...
I think it did, actually. Like, throughout the whole book, it was just hidden in the like parts of the confessions.
It was taken into account. It wasn't like in depth or
it wasn't the
in depth.
main point. Yeah, it wasn't the main point of the book, but it had a major part.
That's true. I take that back.
Yeah, and I do feel like it talks about certain aspects of Japanese society that I guess the author wanted to critique in a way.
Which definitely does.
Like, the view on family, traditional families versus, non-traditional families, the pressure on teachers and the unfair treatment that they go through. There are certain points. And also I feel like there is a certain critique also. There is one character in particular, I feel like it's there just for the author to represent a certain kind of teachers, which she clearly dislikes.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Because like it doesn't serve any particular purpose to the story, so it's just there to represent this idea. So I do feel like, in a way, like as you were saying, it is more of a fantasy, even though it's a very realistic. In a way,
it felt too real to me. Didn't feel like fantasy at all. And
what I mean by fantasy is like it is the starting from a realistic setting.
Okay.
It takes some ideas to the extreme in a way where like it would very hardly happen in reality, but at the same time you can also see it happening. Like it's not impossible.
There's definitely the horror element. It suggests that these things could be happening all over the place and nobody would know. So it's like the depression part of this.
Yeah.
It's a really extreme example of like how fucked up things can get when like people don't really communicate with each other too much, and when they like live in their own world of different ideas, and usually like kind of twisted and wrong ideas.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, and also like I feel like another interesting point was, which maybe is the most depressing point of the book, is how much like tragedy and horror are attractive to the media, to younger people, compared to positive stories and successful stories.
It's also a big point of this,
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the points why you should be reading or shouldn't be reading this book if you're interested in what Japanese people are scared of or what they're really worried about and how they like live their lives. And this is definitely what they would be worried about, be it real or not real. I think this is one of the biggest issues with the Japanese politeness and not being direct with anything, and then the overthinking accelerates and escalates into like levels, be it real or be it just a fantasy. This is definitely what goes through like a regular Japanese student's mind to some extent, I would expect. Would you feel like that?
I feel like there is definitely like something to say about like, is this something that real Japanese students feel? I wouldn't know. I would hope not. I do feel like, and again, this is like one of the points I like the least about the book. I mean, it wants to show how devious even younger kids can be, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I just want to say that this definitely is the reason why it resonated with Japanese audiences so much, because people are definitely, if they don't think like this, they definitely feel like this sometimes. And that's why I think this is so successful.
Yeah. It's definitely a relevant point. But at the same time, I think the point wasn't really to show like how most Japanese people or how most Japanese students think or feel, or like their thought process. It was more about to show how things can go wrong and what happens when they go wrong. I guess that's to me that was the main purpose.
I just want to say, like, if somebody's interested in like, or if somebody is not actually convinced like about reading this book, you should just try the first chapter. Just read the first chapter, and if it doesn't grab you, then don't read the rest.
That's a good advice.
If the first chapter grabs you, then it's a book for you, I think. Because it's like the first chapter is written in a way that it blew my mind. And I went through so many different feelings and emotions while reading this. Like, it was like first like wondered and like surprised and like kind of disgusted by what's happening, and then compassionate but not really, and like every little, like if you could find like this emotion wheel on the internet, maybe like you could like track my route throughout the whole wheel. And it was really well written, and maybe this was the main like reason why I kept reading. Like the first chapter really grabbed me, and the rest was just basically an additional like information to the first thing. Like you basically had most of the information you needed from the first chapter, and then just everything else is more and more stuff piled on the first chapter.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you like the first chapter, I think you will enjoy the rest because you will know more about it. But you can actually just go with the first chapter. And
yeah, no, but I completely agree. I just remember, I remember reading the first chapter. I was really into it. I think it definitely starts better than it ends.
We could all agree on that. So, so before we end this section, would you recommend it?
Yes.
Well, I recommended
of course.
to Philip. So
I'm hesitant. For me, it's like if you're really into Japanese culture and you really want to see what the thinking process of somebody who's completely like a different environment to grow up in person, like, then definitely. If you're just curious about like a fun story, I have to say I wouldn't recommend it.
It's not a fun story. It's a catchy story. It's like it engulfs you in the story, but it's not a happy story.
It's a memorable story.
I was engulfed partially. I was engulfed like the first half, I think. So I'm not as books usually grow on me, and this book like went from like okay, it's great, and then it's like very interesting, and it went like a little bit down, and it went back up, and then it went more down. So that's how I felt in this book.
All right. I do feel like I think it starts really well, and I think it peaks early. That is true. I agree with that. But I don't see that necessarily as a problem because, again, first, it's a very short book. And second, as Martin said, like the first chapter kind of like covers what the book is going to be about and most of its themes and everything else. So I don't see it necessarily as a bad point. But yeah, it is true that like definitely starts... It peaks very early, and then it goes down towards the end. But yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a negative aspect, and I would still recommend it. But yeah, it's not for everyone. Yeah. I think we can all agree with that.
Yes, of course.
I would also say like if you like mysteries, it's a good book because like if you like mysteries and don't mind getting depressed while reading the mystery and while trying to figure out the mystery, then it's a good book as well.
I see. So just to finish the first part, I wanted to read some quotes. So that's not spoilers. So just to give you an idea what kind of deal this book is. So very short quote. A cornered rat will bite the cat. That's a thing that stuck with me. It was at a point that I can't tell because it was...
okay.
Yeah.
It was at some point.
Shit went down when it happened.
Okay, all right.
So other quote is quite long, but I think gives you a pretty good idea about like what this book's deal is. Weak people find even weaker people to be their victims, and the victimized often feel that they have only two choices: put up with the pain or end their suffering in death. But they're wrong. The world you live in is much bigger than that. If the place in which you find yourself is too painful, I say you should be free to seek another, less painful place of refuge. There is no shame in seeking a safe place. I want you to believe that somewhere in this wide world there is a place for you, a safe haven. So it ends in kind of a positive message, which this book doesn't end in a positive message.
Yeah, that was actually a good quote. Like I really like that one as well. Like, that's one of the few positive like messages that happen in the book. It actually helped me to overcome the depression that came from everything else. So yeah, it helps.
Yeah, it is kind of like, you know, at the opposite from what most of the book is about.
So
but yeah, it is a very good quote.
I mean, yeah, there's the one character that's basically the personification of the good guy, or like you know who I'm talking about, probably, right? And that's the quote like from him, right?
Yeah, that's him.
So he's the source of everything good that's happening in the book, I think.
Just very little.
Is it a dog? There is a dog. Like, the dog does nothing bad.
Oh yeah, this dog. Okay. Completely forgot about it.
So, last quote. Doing something good or remarkable isn't easy. It's much easier to condemn people who do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing yourself. Yeah,
I've actually written that one down.
Yeah, that's also a very good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can like have a follow-up for this one, because that's from the same person, and it goes like, I think we regular people may have forgotten a basic truth. We don't really have the right to judge anyone else. And that's what stuck with me as well.
Yeah, that's also really nice.
Yeah, then I have another quote, but I think I would be paraphrasing. It's like it follows the. I think it's like it's much easier to condemn people who do the wrong than do the right thing, and then it follows up with like, it's hard to be the first one to blame someone, and then Mizuki says that like. It's easier to be the second or like to join the one who blames someone else. And then once you've done it, like blame someone evil for their wrongdoing, you may find that you want that feeling again, that you need someone else to accuse just to get the rush back. The second time around, you might have to look further down the food chain, be more and more creative with your accusations. And it becomes a witch hunt. That's like what stuck with me as well.
I remember this one a lot. Yes, same here.
I don't remember any of these quotes, but
like for you, it's a year ago. We just read it, so that's why you remember.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I read too much Dune in the middle.
Okay, so that's it for the first part. If you want to, hit pause, read the book, come back. If you don't care, let's get into spoilers. So,
there is a dog.
Doesn't die.
Doesn't die. It's not John Wick.
Yeah.
There's a website. Does the dog die?
So it is a revenge story, but it's not about a dog dying. Yeah.
Yes.
My synopsis: Japanese children murdering each other in a school while the teacher embraces it.
I don't know if that's like really.
Yeah, just sensationalizing,
like,
but yes.
The teacher didn't really embrace that.
She used it. So let me say like a bit for what happens, and if you have any comments or if you want to, I want to quickly get through what happened, and then we'll get to like what you think about details. If that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
So what happens is that a child gets murdered, and it's the daughter of the class teacher, and she just enacts revenge. Actually, I have the tagline. I think this is kind of a spoiler, which is why I didn't say it. But on the book cover in English, it says, "Her pupils killed her daughter. Now she will have her revenge."
It sounds like a B movie from
That's
the
exactly what
really
I like to do.
like an action movie with Statham or something like that.
But it's pretty much what happens, but not in the way you imagine at all. So she gives a long speech to the class, which is the whole first chapter and the first 30 minutes of the movie. And she like gives them milk, and then she tells them like that her daughter was killed, and she knows who. And then her husband has AIDS, and then she put the AIDS blood in the milk, and the killers who killed the child got AIDS from her putting it in the milk. That's like the first twist.
Well, that's what she says.
That's what she says, and that's what like that's where the red herring starts.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a bunch of levels to this.
Yeah. I don't know how should we discuss this? Like, should we discuss this now, or should we discuss this after?
I guess this is full spoiler.
Yeah. You can say anything you want. I just want to go like what happened, and then we can like get into the details.
All right.
Okay. Just continue.
Yeah. So it's gonna be very brief. So then she knows who killed them, so she tries to like make their life miserable and have the revenge. So she manipulates them into having the worst life. So how they killed the girl was that one of the boys who is involved is like a very clever inventor, and he made a thing that electrocutes somebody.
Yeah, the murder machine, he called it. I think.
And he was very excited to test it, and he wanted like a victim, like an accomplice, which he didn't care about at all. So he manipulated him into going with him and killing this little girl. So they shocked the girl with like a small purse that gave her an electric shock. She passed out, didn't get killed, but the boy who was manipulated freaked out and threw her in the pond, or something. I think it was a pond.
No, it was
a
swimming pool.
Swimming pool that he was tasked to clean that day.
Yeah.
And she died, so he's now the murderer, and that's what's eating him up, and that's why he goes mad, and that's the most like biggest part of this book, how the people go mad from all that happened.
Yes.
So there are a bunch of twists, and the only person who is trying to prevent all this madness is the husband who got AIDS, but then he dies, and the wife the wife just like talking to her husband. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be nice. And then as soon as he dies, he's like, fuck this, I'm killing them even more. It's just like, it's just like even worse. So I could go into all the details how everybody goes mad, but I guess that's now we can discuss the details.
So I would start from the ending because I feel like you didn't like it, and it seems like Martin also didn't like it.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I think it could be better, but it wasn't bad.
So what is it that you... Because I was not super excited about the ending, but in a way I also liked...
So could
like,
you say
the
what
idea.
happened, just to be clear?
Well, okay, so the ending is that in the end, the guy who made, like the kid who made the killing machine planted some bombs into the school. He was planning to kill like a whole bunch of people because he was super mad that no one noticed that he was the murderer.
And himself. I think he wanted to kill himself as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because he wanted to get his mother's attention.
That's the whole plot. Like he's doing all this to get to his mother.
Yes.
As one character said it, he has mama issues or mother's complex because that's the only thing he cares about.
Yeah, but the teacher finds out and she plants the bombs in his mother's office, so he actually ends up killing his own mother. And that's how the story ends.
So the teacher so I'm just gonna look up the names. What's the name?
The teacher was Moriguchi sensei.
Moriguchi. So Moriguchi is the teacher who started this whole thing with the milk.
Yeah.
So she finds out he planted the bomb and she puts the bomb in the university where his mother, that he's trying to get attention of, works, and then he blows up the bomb trying to blow himself up but kills the mother.
Yes.
And the Moriguchi is very happy about that, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
So what did you think about that?
Well, I was disappointed in the ending because I thought that it's trying to play her to be the ultimate evil, and when we found out that she didn't really plant AIDS in the milk, or did she?
She didn't.
She did.
She did, but the rate of how much you can contract AIDS from that is so minuscule that she basically thought it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
that's what they said. Yeah, so she did, but she felt like it wouldn't happen, so it's not a big deal. Which
yeah.
But she planted the thought in their head, and I think that like fucked them up even more than
that was definitely the point.
Yeah,
well,
I think
I feel like it fucked up Naoki, so the weak kid.
Yeah,
because the other one
was normal and checked.
The
if
other
he
one
got
actually
AIDS.
embraced it, right? He wanted to get sick because
like
he wanted to
she
have
fucked
attention.
up with him by essentially telling him that he was a failure because he was not the one who killed his daughter, like her daughter.
This is my biggest gripes in this book, like people not thinking like, okay, they're mad, okay, this is happening, but like the guy who's like clever, so he immediately went to get checked out in the hospital and found out he didn't have AIDS. The other guy, it occurred to him after like how long, like he was like,
but that one I understand, like
I don't,
like he's like 13,
okay, but he's like okay,
like it's scary to go to the hospital and ask like for a AIDS check. Like
there are ways to do it, like you could pay people, you could like do stuff.
When you're 13, it's not so easy.
But he already did so much stuff, so
that's true.
He should be like,
so my okay,
he didn't even question it. That's my
okay, I agree with that, but not really. Like I feel like that's normal. My
he didn't listen. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. No, I wanted to say, because like actually my biggest gripe with the book is that it's something that is very common with most Japanese modern media, which is they are so used to considering kids like adults. Like most like comics or like TV shows and so on, they portray stories of like high schoolers who clearly don't act like high schoolers. They act kind of like adults.
Oh yeah.
So in this book, for most of the book, they act like this book suffers from the same problem, so that most of them act like adults. They don't really reason like high schoolers.
Yes.
Like the way they hold a grudge, the way they react to things, especially like, for example, the class representative, the one who decides to help.
Mizuki.
Yeah. Like the way she acts doesn't make sense for a like 13-year-old.
Yeah, she has a really lot of deep thoughts that like I wouldn't expect from a 13-year-old.
Yeah. But then on the opposite side, Naoki is the only one who actually acts like his age. like, again, if you give me like a 13-year-old and you told him like he has AIDS, and also like he's living with this idea that, you know, everyone knows he killed like a child, like, of course, like I can see that he wouldn't get tested, like he would just go mental.
But you can look up, he spent all his life, the rest of his life he spent online, and he could have just searched like, what is the chance of like drinking blood with AIDS, and how high is the chance to be infected?
That is true.
None of that. He just like completely
That's true.
went bonkers for no reason. Like
I think Naoki was too self-centered about this. I think he has a truth in his head that he just conjures basically for the whole book. His whole idea, I think, was that he didn't listen like monologue Moriguchi sensei was doing, right? Like he cared until
he even said he didn't.
He realized, came again to their house and said that she like knows that he did it, right? At that point, I think that Moriguchi planted this idea in his head, and Naoki just embraced that idea and just clung onto it, and didn't know, like, he didn't have any idea that he can do anything else. Same as Shuya didn't really have any idea that he could just go and visit his mother at the university, right? It's like this, like they basically live in their own world, and they
that was another thing I hated.
Like they are not really trying to find anything new, anything that would help them, right? I don't know. It's like the point of Naoki was that he is so self-centered that he can't see anything else
to think
than
about it like they're mad
himself
and
how he is destructive to the environment around him, and how the environment would destroy him if he would do something, or if he like would come out with the truth, right? And then there's like Shuya, who's the opposite. He's like, I don't fucking care about anyone. Everyone is an idiot. Yeah.
From that point of view, they're like enclosed in their own ways and they can't just get out of it. So that kind of makes sense. Yeah, just to be clear what happened, if you haven't read this book and you're having it spoiled. So after they got it in their heads that they got AIDS, even though they didn't get AIDS, they went completely mad. And Naoki is the guy who dropped her in the swimming pool. Shuya is the guy who invented the machine. So Shuya doesn't care. He just goes on his business. And Naoki just locks himself in his room and starts to like wash everything and protect everybody and not touch everybody and not come out for like a year maybe. Or half year?
No, I think it was like some months.
Long time.
Yeah, but
it was at the end of the term. It was like a summer vacation, I think, at the end, and then he started, like, people started going to school in April, right?
No. Like the initial speech was at the end of March. Like at the end of the school year.
Okay. So it was after.
Then they had the
It was after the spring vacation, and then they should have been going to school, but Naoki just didn't. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so he goes completely mad, and people like visit him, like the new class teacher with a classmate regularly visit him to give him homework, and the mother also goes mad, and. This is a thing.
Yeah, I think okay, another interesting point which I really like is the way that, in a way, so most of the story is centered around the two kids, but at the same time you can center the story around like the three mothers.
Yeah.
Because one is like the overprotective mother, like super obsessed, which is like the super standard Japanese family where like, you know, they live together and everything seems nice and beautiful, and they want to protect appearances as much as possible. Because like Naoki's biggest problem is he doesn't want people to know, because he wants to protect appearances, because that's what his mother is all about. And then there is like the absent mother, which is Shuya's mother.
Yeah.
So in that case, the problem is like she basically stops caring about his son.
The exact opposite.
Yeah, and so he essentially becomes a psychopath because his mother completely abandoned him.
Do you
after
remember what
divorcing.
happened to his father?
His father got remarried and
No, he didn't leave.
he hated he got
Yeah.
remarried. Yeah.
Lived together for a long time, and then basically he actually says that he liked his foster mother quite a lot, but then a new baby was born, and they had a baby, and they basically pushed him away, and then they didn't care about him, so he kind of didn't like that, and that's where he like started to plot his murder devices and such.
Right. And then like the third mother would be like Moriguchi, so the main character, who was the only decent mother, despite the fact that she had to go through all of these adversities, throughout her life, and with her husband, having HIV, and essentially having to raise the daughter on her own without being married, being judged for all of that. But she, in the end, she was supposedly like the best mother.
Like, do you think that's actually the truth, or like, do you think that's just because we have the most information about her? Because like we basically don't know anything about like Shuya's mother, right? We don't know anything about her like inner feelings, about her inner like what she wanted to accomplish.
That's true.
Maybe she had her reasons, like, and
I was hoping they would explain that a little bit. That wasn't there at all.
That's a part like I would have loved. Like, so in the ending, like she just dies, and it would have been. I think it would have been more interesting to get, instead of just her dying. Like, I think there was just like a way to end the story with a very closed ending. I think it would have been more interesting if the mother would have made an appearance, and she wouldn't have had a confrontation with the son. And, because in a way, like what I was really hoping the ending would be, what I was expecting maybe, is, Shuya would try to blow up the school and whatever. He would fail because of Moriguchi, but instead Moriguchi would bring his mother to the school, and his mother would be like a normal person and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
But
are you fucking stupid?
That's what I kind of expected.
That's assuming that Moriguchi is a good person. Problem is, Moriguchi isn't a good person either. Like, there's no good person in that story. Like, everything is fucked up.
Well, the dog is
good. And
and
basically the
husband
was like bad, and then he become good. Like that's the redemption story.
Yes. It's a redemption story, exactly.
Everyone else.
That's what I meant with the ending. Like, I felt like the ending was like super evil for the sake of being edgy. Like, I didn't feel like...
I agree. Yes, that's like my biggest complaint about the ending.
Actually, can I come back to the start that we discussed, that Moriguchi actually like said that she planted the like AIDS or the Sakuranomiya's blood into the milk, and then actually Mizuki said that she didn't, because the test went negative, and at that point, did you guys like have at least a little bit of feeling that Moriguchi did this all for like a good purpose? Like did this all like exactly. For a reason that we don't like yet know, but it was a good reason. Maybe like because if she didn't do it, the kids would have found out eventually anyway, and they would ruin the kids even more, like ruin the murderers even more, or like they would be like even worse off if the thing didn't come out to light or something like that. Like I felt
exactly like that.
I didn't feel like that. I didn't expect her to be this evil, but I thought she wanted to teach a lesson, but at the same time not in a positive way.
I was sure there would be a multitude of twists, and my idea of twists was that she would be exactly not actually doing it. That's what I was thinking about in the monologue. I was like, she hasn't done that. She isn't that man, and she's like the good teacher. Of course, she's gonna be the good teacher. And I was like, okay, so she did all this, and she hasn't thought it through. And I thought the story would be that she tried to like have it turn out a good way and do it, so it didn't really happen. But then at the end, realizing that it caused so much more shit anyway, like the psychological damage and all this problem.
I mean, the
And
mother ended up getting killed.
And I thought that that's what would drive her insane, and then she would do something evil because of this realization. So if the story was the same, and there was a slight change that she would go mad from like eating herself up from the realization that she tried to do something good, and it turned out so bad, then I would have liked it so much more.
And then we
That's what I
realized
meant
that
to say.
Moriguchi
About
is
the
a
ending.
psychopath as well. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, yeah, I didn't like that she was that crazy at the end again to murder like the Shuya's mother. But again, that's a point that I feel like it would have been better, like getting a confrontation. But at the same time, I feel like the initial monologue where she explains like how she had like such a harsh life and everything else was just a way to say like, you know, fuck this shit. Like, you know, because like she went through so much stuff. And, you know, she was finally finding happiness, even though it was still a very difficult situation. And essentially, they removed her only reason to keep... No, I don't want to say to keep living, but her only, like, way into sanity. Because, again, like, she clearly explained she didn't really care about the job. Her partner was about to die anyway. She didn't have a family. Yeah,
so does she do it just for revenge? But like I don't get her motive at the end. Like she's just like
No, I agree. Like the ending, like again, okay, so this we can go back to what we said at the beginning about the genre, the specific genre within Japanese literature that this is a part of. Like in this kind of stories, usually the ending is like that exactly because the ending has to be like a final shock. Like there can't be
and they
like
lived happily ever after, right?
Yeah, not it doesn't have to be like a good ending, but like there can't be like a neat conclusion.
Yeah.
Because like again, what we were suggesting, like if there had been like a final confrontation where you get to see Shuya's mother's feelings and she can confront him and make him like show him like how distasteful what he's doing is, like there would have been a neat ending. It would have been like a horrifying ending. But this kind of literature wants to have that horrifying ending.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Another thing I meant to say about Naoki is, so he locked himself up and he started to go mad. And I liked this aspect of the book, like we talked about, that each chapter is from different person's point of view. From like the mother's point of view, and his point of view. That was one of the like clever parts I liked. That everybody thought that he killed his mother. That just happens at one point. But then it turns out that the mother went mad and wanted to kill herself and take himself with her. And then you think that he killed her in defense, but then it turns out that she couldn't do it and she killed herself and he didn't do anything and just watched it, which is even more horrifying.
Yes.
So that was a very clever part of the book. Might be my favorite part of the book because I didn't expect it at all and had like clever levels to it.
And I feel like that whole part where you read the diary of the mother first and then the diary he wrote and then the conclusions by his sister. I really like, again, when I said like I like different, like peculiar writing styles, I really like the way it fits. It's kind of like a puzzle, so that you get one perspective and then you get the other perspective, and you like by getting them together, you understand actually what was going on from both sides. And as you said, like again, like a lot of that situation is about miscommunication or lack of communication. But in like about that, I feel like that's exactly the point. Like
it could happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the fact that the mother was trying so hard to be the good mother, she wasn't actually listening to her son at all. She only cared about her ideas and what she thought was good for the son. So I think like that was exactly what the author was going for. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was definitely what I wanted to mention. I have a couple of notes here, but I feel like I keep bringing stuff up. Just to finish up the story. So the mother dies, then
everybody dies.
So now Naoki, after the mother dies, what exactly? How did it?
He goes to prison.
Naoki
he doesn't
doesn't die.
No, he doesn't go to prison. Sorry, he goes to asylum. He goes to
I
an
thought he
asylum.
died. Never mind. There's a point where he cuts himself and he decides to spread AIDS, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, on the,
Okay,
at the
that was
convenience store.
like
I'll let that pass.
twist, right? Like that was his snap out of his like shell,
yeah.
right?
I get that madness. But what I hated was that the father in this family, where Naoki and his mother lived, he was like, fuck that, I'm tired, bye, I'm not coming home tonight. And in the meantime, the mother's dying, and he's like cutting himself up. And
That's
it's
true.
like,
Yeah.
it's like, what the
That
fuck?
was so weird that he would never notice anything that was happening in that.
But
family.
I feel like that could be also like part of the critique to the fact that many Japanese fathers are so
Which, if this is the
outside of the like family
Yeah.
like situation.
if this is actually what it's
yeah.
like, it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's like so bad. Like
I agree.
so many levels of bad.
Yes.
He was like, that didn't give any shit. He was even there in part of
Yes.
the book. He was like at
Yeah.
home with them, and he was like, okay, I guess you're mad. Bye. I have
Yeah.
to work now.
You know, my boss says I need to finish this report.
Which is this is exactly, which isn't even important. Like if he had to go on a business trip to Europe, I guess I would have like understood more. But this made me really upset about Japanese fathers.
I knew this would come up some like eventually.
Yeah,
in this
so I think
episode.
this is all about the plot points and like things I want to bring up. Rest of my notes are only a hidden thought of the day, so I'm not
Oh
going.
wow. Okay. Let me prepare. I have a yellow card. I have a red card.
So I already got one red card. So I'll let you talk for a bit, and then we'll either end or I have some thought of the day.
Okay.
So anything we forgot or anything you want to mention?
Not really. Maybe I should watch a movie. Because the movie is a little different actually.
Yeah, I think somebody told me it's like slightly, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Another point I didn't like: Mizuki dying. In a like.
yeah,
Miyuki?
for
Yeah.
basically
her name.
Mizuki like died
Yeah.
for basically no reason.
She was so underused. I was
Yeah.
expecting her to be more important.
Yeah. That is.
If you don't know, she is the student who comes to visit Naoki when he's locked up and brings her.
Yeah, she's the class representative.
Class representative. She is like she's got a crush on Naoki, but then she started.
She is in love with Naoki
Yeah.
and has a crush
For
on
no
Shura.
reason.
That didn't
Yeah.
explain, and then she
No,
Basically
they
no
explained it, but it was like super
Okay.
silly.
okay.
Was
Yeah.
it? Was it?
Yeah, it was something like some of the other girls were like bad mouthing her, and he told her to shut up.
Yeah, there was some
something like that.
reason.
Yeah, something
Ah,
completely.
yeah, okay,
forgot.
okay.
But then she becomes Shuya's lover, and she's obsessed with murder and poison.
And almost looks like they're gonna be the ultimate evil duo, and
Yeah.
then they just like
Yeah.
This doesn't have nothing comes out of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of
but
disappointing.
he kills her. Like, yeah, that was disappointing.
I think that was to like point out that she pointed out that he has this like inner problem with himself, right? He has mother issues, and
Yeah.
I think that was to show that Shuya was just too far into his like illusion, right? He was too far, and he didn't really want to accept that
Okay.
there is a way to like repent, or there is a way to just fix how he is, because maybe I have also a thought of the day, which you might add a red card to me as well.
Wow.
But, I've been thinking about this, and do you think we all somehow like are kind of fucked up in our own ways?
Well, obviously.
Like everyone has
of course.
some like inner demons, right? And
Yeah.
kind of nobody goes through their childhood without manifesting some
Absolutely.
of those. And I think the book is trying to tell us that you can probably think about those demons, and those demons that you see are fine because we can do something about them, and we usually like kind of
Yeah, that's a good
either
point.
like accept them, or we just like try to change them and like have them serve us, and
That's a good point, yes.
just change the way it works, like change the way we work, if we know about those demons. But what if the demons are with us so long that we just become used to them, and we just feel like it's normal in our environment.
Absolutely feel like that.
Yeah, and that was Shuya, right? Shuya lived with his demon so long that he felt that it's normal to be so in love with his mother, basically, and he felt normal that it's just the only thing he cares about. And when Mizuki pointed it out, it just felt unrealistic. It just didn't match with his reality, so he had to kill her, right, in order to protect the reality. I know
that makes sense.
Extreme.
No. That's a very good point.
If you say it like that,
but
then you know the term cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that we all have some like hidden demons that we don't actually know about, but they're living with us?
No, definitely.
And we actually need someone else to see them for us, and then we can find them out and decide what to do with them, right?
I mean, that's definitely why counseling exists and why they get paid a lot of money, essentially, just to listen to your bullshit.
And tell you what's wrong with you, which is obvious, and you don't see it.
That's true. That's. Do you think like if Shuya actually didn't if the family didn't have a child, like a second child, and Shuya stayed with them, would this never happen? Because
Probably.
That was the point everything snapped, right? Like that was the point where he started to make the devices, or was it also before?
No. It was from that point on.
Okay.
So we never said that his deal was to attract. Or maybe we did say that he wanted to attract the attention of his mother, so they could reunite happily. But he didn't see that it would never happen. Because the mother was already remarried, and he didn't know. And then he finds out, and he gets even more mad, and that's what makes him set the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought of the day. I agree.
Okay. No red card. Okay. I feel good.
It's the worst because Shuya is in such a position, and many people are, I'm sure you've seen those people. They are so stuck in their ways. You see what their deal is. You see what their problem is. You try to suggest it. You try to shove it in their mouth. You try to show them in pictures, video, movies, music, and they would not do anything to see it. They are so into their world that if they were to accept that this thing is a problem, it would shatter everything they believe, or it would shatter the way they live and the way they think. And that's too scary to do, so they never do it. And when they do it, they have like a miniature breakdown, sometimes better, sometimes worse. And it's so difficult.
Yeah, in this book, it was definitely for the worst.
So this is what happens if it's the worst. Yeah.
That's actually what happened with Shuya. Yeah.
But I feel absolutely the same. So yeah. So maybe what we could do is I'll give you just like a few. We can do it like very shortly. I'll just tell you like what I was thinking about when I read this. All my like thoughts of the day. We don't have to talk about them. I just mentioned them.
Okay.
And if you afterwards want to get into any of them, then we can talk about them more, or we can just end. That's what we could do. And we could pick just one thing from all this.
Yes.
So one thing that I was thinking about a lot was that there was a diary in the book, and the mother heard from the teacher that she should write all the things down. I'm sure you remember. It's like a good plot point. Remember the good things. Don't write them down, but write down the bad things and then forget them. So that's like write down your sins and forget it, and they'll try to get children to get Naoki to like help with his mental problems to do this. And they keep saying that it helps a lot. So that's one thing I want to bring up. Another one was that they talked about all these like good and bad things to do. That if you share public information in a class, and the whole book is about, of course, by everybody knowing who did it, they torture them. And there are also like small details, like if you publish and bring up results of tests and scores of children in a class publicly, it will demotivate them to study more, which I think is a very huge difference between Asian and Western culture. In the West, they will always publish them, I think. In Japan,
it's changing a little. I feel, but yeah.
So there was another like thing that I was thinking about, if it should be published or not, if it should be more open, which I think it should be, because then it would prevent from all this overthinking and all this like mental madness.
But it might lead to a lot of like competition.
But that's the Western culture in there. Yeah. So if you want to be competitive and push people to, I don't know.
I don't know.
Thing, yeah.
I honestly,
So then, mothers spoil their children so badly. That was like a thing I was constantly thinking about. It's my like gripe in my personal life or in other people's lives. Like this mother with Naoki, she did so many things for him, and she never told him no. And even when she told him no, she didn't. She took him to a psychiatrist, and she was like, okay, now I'm gonna put a stop to this. Until then, she would never do anything to stop him. She just allowed him and allowed him and allowed him.
That's true, but I feel like in her case it was because she was role-playing as the perfect mother.
Yeah, but perfect mother isn't this.
No, I know, but that's like the society's idea of a perfect mother.
And then
but she had the image from her mother. Right?
Finally, she would be like, okay, I'm putting my foot down, I'm bringing this to an end, here's your psychiatrist, and you're not saying anything, so I'm gonna say it. And then, okay, nothing happened, and it's okay, I'm gonna allow you more. So it's like, fucking hell, just do something. She was like, she wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, fair enough. She wouldn't do anything until she tried to kill herself.
I hate this so hard, so mothers, please say no. It's easy. Just no. Especially Japanese mothers. No. It's just no. Yeah. That's all. That's all I want to say. And that's the last thing. There was a thing that... kept occurring. There is a phrase that Shuya kept saying.
The bubbles.
Yeah, the bubbles.
Bubbles. I wanted to talk about this. I actually forgot.
So maybe you can take over. You can talk about it.
I don't know. I just wanted to ask you, what do you think it represented? Because
so Shuya did things to make himself realized or get attention of the mother or have his way. And every time it would happen, he had in his mind like a bubble didn't pop, or a bubble popped late, or a bubble popped. And what he meant by that was that he wanted to get like catharsis, or like, how would you call it? Like, he wanted to be okay with it.
Was it like basically happiness? He wanted to like grab a bit of happiness? Because I don't know if, like, I vaguely remember that there was like a metaphor at the start that Shuya said that he's like the shampoo. Like there was a bottle of shampoo, like it was empty, and like I'm like the shampoo, I'm empty, and then he filled it with water, and there's a lot of bubbles in there, which still serve as like at least something like a shampoo, right? So and he compared that to his happiness, like he is empty, his happiness meter is empty, and then when he's trying to fill that with bubbles, at least a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what he meant, yes.
And like to make himself feel something like happiness. But I don't know if that actually works with that metaphor, because that's actually the like other way. Like,
I think there is a multiple way to look at it. One of them is the happiness. The other thing is like the ultimate depression, which I think this is what they wanted to do, like to have him absolutely hopeless and have no hope and no meaning. And I think what he was trying to do is feel something, because he didn't feel anything. He was like, and then
Spider-Man noir.
I think I think the bubbles point was that he wanted to have his life accomplished something or feel something, like he did and lived, and he never felt like it. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna kill somebody, and oh no, and I'm gonna kill this girl again, oh no, and I'm gonna like finally see my mother, oh no, and then my mother died, and it popped, and I'm like, okay, nothing has a meaning now. It was very ambiguous, so you could take anything you want from it. That's
okay. Yeah. That's interesting though.
So if you've read the book and still listened until now, send us an email at mindduckjapan@gmail.com and tell us what the bubbles mean.
Yeah, that would be interesting, because I still really don't know. Like, it was a nice point of like into his mind, like look into his mind, but I didn't really catch what it meant at all.
Yeah, my explanation was, like I said, I think it was just him trying to live and feel.
Yeah, your explanation makes sense. Mine doesn't, because it would mean that it's like the opposite of what's happening. Because every time it happened when something kind of bad happened to him. Like something that he didn't really expect, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't when he like achieved something that would bring him happiness. It was the exact opposite of that.
I think he wanted it to mean happiness, but he just wanted it to mean something.
Maybe
that's what was
that makes sense.
Okay, so I think we've been talking long enough. So if you don't mind, we can end here. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed discussing a book. I'm glad that this is more of a relaxed discussion and we can actually get into it in depth. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you've also read this book, send us some comments at mydarkjapan@gmail.com. I'll try to reply to them in the next episode. And thank you so much for listening. See you in the next one.
Thank you. See you.
Coming up in the future episodes is the 3-Body Problem trilogy. However, before we get into some of the longer books and very intense discussions that probably will spread out to multiple episodes, we've decided to both choose one of our favorite short stories and do something shorter for the next 2 episodes. So if you want to join our miniature book club, the next episode is one of my favorite short stories by Orson Scott Card. It's a part of a book called Maps in a Mirror, and the name of the short story is The Changed Man and the King of Words. If you want to try it, it's only about 30 pages long. You can have it read in 1 hour. So if you're interested, give it a go and join us for the next episode.